Okay, hello, Speak English ambassadors. This is Christina from Speak English with Christina TV. And I'm really excited to be here with you today after your lunch, perhaps, if you're in France or if you're in Europe. And this is something that's very new. We're going to try some live sessions, some short live lessons, maybe around lunchtime or maybe in the evening. The time is really something that we can try together to see what works best for everyone. Just to see if to see what works for everyone and to see if you like the format also. Of course, this is not replacing the regular format of the weekly lessons on Tuesdays. It's just to try something different, a little more spontaneous, a little more interactive, to try this with you. So anyway, before we start, in case you don't know Speak English with Christina and you don't know who I am, of course it's polite to introduce yourself. So I want to introduce myself. If you don't know me, I'm Christina Rubuffet, and I am the creator of Speak English with Christina. And before we continue, just to be sure that you can hear me, if you can hear me, can you just type hello in the chat? So here's me, and say hello to everyone. And just type hello in the chat so that I know that you can hear me and the sound is working and everything is okay. All right. Okay, great. So, so as I was saying, Speak English with Christina, it's the place to learn fun, fluent, and easy American English. I am from the US, but I live in France where I teach English online. And I've been teaching for 13 years now, so a pretty long time, it seems like, anyway. And so with Speak English with Christina, it's the community where you can come to have fun learning English, to find perhaps someone to practice with, and also to enjoy speaking English, to be less afraid of making mistakes, to learn, to laugh, to have fun, whether you're learning English for because you like English and you like US culture, because you want to travel to different countries, and of course English is very useful for traveling to different countries, or if you're learning English for your job, because let's say that the heart of my teaching experience, it's business English. So I've been teaching in companies in France for 13 years now. So all of that is what you will find at Speak English with Christina. So if you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please go ahead, please subscribe, and that way you will get English lessons every week. And also I can share some exciting events like these live events with you, and lots of other opportunities for you to improve your English. Now, today we're going to talk about slang and mistakes that you might make with your slang expressions in English. And the reason why I chose this topic for the first live session, last week, or last Tuesday, maybe you saw that the lesson of the week on Speak English with Christina TV was 3 very embarrassing mistakes that you perhaps make in English. And there were a lot of comments and a lot of questions about this video, and a lot of stories. And I wanted to share some stories with you, but also use this as an opportunity to teach you, in fact, some correct and incorrect American slang expressions, and also, tell you what you're saying if you use the expression incorrectly, because sometimes you make the mistake, you don't know it's a mistake, and the other person, they look shocked or surprised, or they don't understand, and you don't understand why. And then it just creates maybe an uncomfortable situation for everyone. So we want to avoid those problems and avoid those uncomfortable situations when you speak English. Now, let's go ahead. First of all, why is it important to know slang? Because some people might think, and this is a mistake, they might think that slang is bad English. Slang is not bad English. Slang definitely has a place in good, correct conversation. For example, you don't speak in the same way with your friends, with your close colleagues, with your family, as you speak when you're giving a business presentation, or you're meeting a client, or you are in a meeting. Of course, you would use slang with your friends, your family, your close colleagues, and that makes the conversation very natural, makes you sound more like a native speaker, more like someone who really speaks the language the way that we speak the language, and it makes you sound more relaxed and not so formal, because if you're using very formal, very literary or school English in your everyday conversations, you sound a little too formal. Like, it doesn't sound very natural. Now, of course, you might not use slang if you're in a professional situation or in a meeting a new client, etc. So you want to first be able to make the difference between slang and maybe a different register of English, maybe a more formal or a more professional register of English. So it's good to know the difference. It's good to use slang expressions when you are in conversations with friends and family and close colleagues. But it's also important for your comprehension of understanding English. Again, if you're in a conversation with native speakers, they will use these expressions so much. And you want to understand without always asking questions or always having to guess the meaning. So it's good for understanding. It's also good if you like to watch movies or television series in English. You'll hear so much slang in these movies and series. And really, if you want to even just start being able to understand what they're saying in the series and the movies, it's really useful to be able to use some slang expressions, or at least to be able to understand slang expressions. So before we continue, are there any questions? If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. And this way, if there are any questions, I can see your questions and I can answer them. So I'm just going to say, are there any questions for the moment? No questions. Okay, all right, then we're going to go ahead and we'll just continue with this. So the first thing, these are some examples that came from other Speak English ambassadors. So if you don't know, if you're not yet a member of the Speak English community, the members of the community are called Speak English ambassadors because when you speak a foreign language with people of other cultures, it's like you become an ambassador of your country and your culture, and also by your improved level of English that you will get when you're following these lessons regularly, you become an ambassador for the Speak English community. So all of the examples in today's lesson are from Speak English ambassadors who left comments on the blog from last week's video, which was about mistakes. And so the first thing, the first difference in slang was the difference between fag and cigarette. Now, just a little warning. Some of the, actually, I think all of the expressions that we'll look at today, they can be, let's say, not appropriate for children. One of the things with slang is that often it is not always appropriate, which is why the mistakes are embarrassing. So just a little warning, this lesson is not appropriate for children. Okay, if you have children, send them away. Because it's going to be a very honest, a very real lesson on what you're saying when you make these mistakes. So the first example was the difference between fag and cigarette. And I'll put these in the chat. So this is fag, and of course, you probably know this word, cigarette. And this was from a guy named Craig in the comments. And I know Craig personally. He's a friend of mine, and I know that he is British. And in British slang, a fag is just a cigarette. You know, you smoke, you want a cigarette from a friend, and you might say, hey, can I have a fag? Or you might say, do you have a fag? Or you might say, I'm looking for some fags. And it means that you're looking for cigarettes. So it's totally harmless. I mean, except for your lungs, but it's not a bad expression. However, Craig made the mistake when he was in the US, because he went into a bar, he wanted to buy some cigarettes, and he said, hey, I'm looking for some fags. The problem, or the confusion, let's say, is that in American slang, fag means a homosexual. It means a gay person. So there's nothing wrong with that, but it means you walk into a bar and it's like you're looking for a gay bar. You go and you say, hey, I'm looking for some homosexuals. Which I don't think that's what he was looking for. He was looking for cigarettes. But he said that the bar owner, the guy who was managing the bar, did kind of look at him a little funny because he thought Craig was saying, hey, I'm looking for a gay bar. So just be careful about that. If you want to ask for cigarettes in the US, we would just say, a cigarette, maybe a smoke, like you might say, do you have a smoke, or do you have a cigarette? But fag in American slang means homosexual, so just be careful about that one. Now, the second confusion that was requested, this was by Anne Claire, and she asked about the embarrassing mistake that you can make with pronunciation. So she asked for the pronunciation between, I'm going to put these in the chat for you, this word, beach, if you can't see the chat, and this word, bitch, which of course is an insult for women generally. We say someone who is not very nice, or we don't like, we might call them a bitch. So this, the sounds of these two words are quite similar. And For a lot of you, maybe it's difficult to hear the difference between the two. And if it's difficult to hear the difference, then maybe it's difficult for you to pronounce the difference. So when you say beach, like, oh, the weather is nice, I want to go to the beach. That's B-E-A-C-H, beach. You can look at the movements of the mouth, beach, as opposed to bitch, as in, she took my parking space, that bitch. And so the mouth is a little different. It's more big. It's more open. If you compare beach, like sunny, nice weather, vacation, beach, and the insult, like, ooh, bitch. So you can see the difference between beach and bitch. And that can help you to, let's say, practice slowly. What I always recommend for these difficult pronunciation questions is to practice slowly. So just focus on the shape of your mouth. Beach, bitch, beach, bitch. Yeah, you can do that with me as you watch the video, and practice slowly so that you get the habit of feeling how to use your muscles when you pronounce, because pronunciation is all about position of your mouth and the position of your tongue, and you'll actually see that tomorrow with a lesson on how to pronounce the American R. There's a whole lesson on pronunciation. So that's the second potentially embarrassing mistake. And the third very embarrassing mistake that could be made. I was really thankful for Nicole because she shared this story with me on the blog, and it's a story, it really made me laugh because it was so funny, and because I could imagine maybe a French friend of mine making this mistake and not realizing what she was saying. And it happens to be with the verb come. So I'm sure that many of you know the verb come, like you see a friend and you say, oh, hey, come over here, come here. That's the most common use of this word. But there is also a slang use for this word, and it means to have an orgasm or for a man to ejaculate. So it's totally not the same meaning as if you're saying, like, to a friend, oh, come here, I need to show you something. Because the story that Nicole said, and you can read this on my blog at ChristinaRebuffet.com, was she was at a party with her friends, and she wanted to sit on her boyfriend's lap, on her knees, on his knees, sorry. And so she asked her boyfriend, she says, oh, can I come on your knees? And she was thinking that when she says, can I come on your knees, like, can I come sit on your knees? Of course, without the sit, she was asking, can I have an orgasm on your knees? So totally not what she wanted to say, but it's a really logical mistake, because you think, oh, I want to come and sit. So I use the word come, but nope, that's a slang mistake. So you have to be careful about that. And Ari, you asked the question. You said, well, what does it mean, come? So now you know, if you make a mistake with that, you're saying, can I come an orgasm? But of course, in most contexts, when we say, like, come here, I need you to come and look at this, or do you want to come with me to the cinema? Of course, everyone understands that it's the normal meaning for the verb, and there's no risk of confusion. It's really when you say something strange like, can I come on your knees, that people might make a face and go, no. So those are some 3 examples that Speak English ambassadors, they mentioned on the blog. So be careful. Fag versus cigarette. Fag, it's homosexual in American slang. It's cigarette in British slang. Beach and bitch. This is just the pronunciation and the position of your mouth. And then come, the normal meaning, like, hey, come here. You want someone to physically come towards you. And the slang meaning, which means to orgasm. So be careful about that. Now, so first of all, these are some mistakes. And I am a big fan of using mistakes as learning opportunities, laughing at your mistakes, because when when I was learning French, even though I still learn lots of new words every day, but I make these kinds of embarrassing mistakes as well. And it depends on the context, how embarrassing it can be. If you're with friends, if you're with family, if you're with your close colleagues, most of the time they'll laugh at you. You can laugh with them because it is a funny situation. And there's no reason to really be afraid or embarrassed if you're with, close friends and colleagues, because they understand that English is not your language, and they will probably laugh or a little giggle because it is funny what you're saying, but then they will explain the mistake and explain what you really said, and then explain how to not make the mistake. So don't be afraid of making these mistakes if you're with friends and family. Now, if you are with strangers, people that you don't know, for example, the story with Craig, and he was in a bar with the guy that he didn't know, that could create a misunderstanding. It could create an uncomfortable situation. So just be aware of that. If someone doesn't react in the way that you expect them to react, maybe it's because you've said something that you didn't want to say. So just keep that in mind, because we make mistakes, but we don't always know that it's a mistake. So just watch people's reactions to what you say. And if you see something like a face where someone is going, it probably means that you need to try to clarify that situation. And then, of course, in business, depending on the situation, but making these kinds of mistakes can influence your credibility. So you want to try, of course, to eliminate these mistakes as early as you can, so that if you're in a business context, in a situation where you want to be correct and credible, like a presentation, a negotiation, a job interview also, you can eliminate these mistakes before the big day. Okay, so that's all for the lesson today. Just before you leave, if you want to correct 32 other mistakes that you might be making in English, I'm really happy because I just published my book especially for people who speak French and who are learning English. It's called What the Foot? Un livre in English pour éviter 32 erreurs fréquentes en anglais. And the link to get the book is below the video. You'll see the link in the notes. So you can click, you can get the book. The book has audio as well, so that you can listen to the book, especially useful for the chapter on pronunciation. So you can get the book, you can avoid immediately 32 common frequent errors that I have seen so often in my 13 years of teaching. And like we said, we talked about eliminating the mistakes before a big event, like a job interview or a meeting or a negotiation. This book, it will be excellent for helping you to eliminate all of those mistakes as soon and as quickly as possible. So now, before we finish, first of all, I want to thank everyone who joined today because it was a little last minute, but I really wanted to try this live format to see what you think about it, to see if I technically, if I could do it. So before you finish, I want you to tell me in the comments first, did you like this live session? Can you follow? Can you understand? Or do I need to change something to make it a better lesson for you? Just let me know. And you can also tell me what other embarrassing or what other silly mistakes have you made when you were speaking English, because I would love to hear your stories. I love hearing your stories about learning English, about your experiences. So please feel free to share it in the comments. And of course, I'll respond because I just like having the contact with you guys. So that's all for today. Subscribe to my channel so that you can get notifications of future live events. I'm going to try, my challenge this week is to do a live event. I'm going to try every day. So we're going to try to do a live event every day. And if you have a time that is good for you, you can also tell me in the comments so that I can try to try different times to see what works for the most people in the community. So anyway, thank you so much for coming to the live lesson, and I will see you tomorrow for something, a different lesson. So we'll see what that is tomorrow. Okay, you guys, have a good afternoon and see you tomorrow.